I didn't go to the shelter to adopt a dog. I went there to say goodbye. The words came out of me without warning, startling even the young volunteer standing behind the front desk. Her bright smile faltered just enough to show she wasn't quite sure what to do with me. I hadn't meant to be dramatic. It was just the truth. I'd driven through 2 towns in a car that still smelled like my late wife's lavender sachets, with no intention of filling the passenger seat beside me. But there I was. The Haven County Animal Shelter sat low and gray on the edge of a quiet road lined with thinning pines. A dull morning mist hung around its windows like a shawl. Inside, the place was clean, well lit, filled with the low whimpers and shuffles of hopeful dogs, and the soft click of shoes across polished concrete. I hadn't meant to walk inside, but my hands had turned the wheel before I could stop them. "You looking for something in particular?" the volunteer asked, glancing at the clipboard in front of her. I looked at her, her neat ponytail, her kind eyes, and shrugged. Not really. I was 62, a retired electrician. I lived alone in a modest house just off Maple Drive, the kind with creaky steps and a small, stubborn garden. My daughter called once a week, and my neighbors waved from time to time, but mostly the house had gone quiet. Too quiet. The volunteer pointed to the right. "Feel free to take a walk through the kennels. I can answer any questions after." I nodded. My feet moved before I thought about it. Rows of dogs watched me, some barking eagerly, some quiet and still. A golden retriever wagged its tail so hard it thumped against the wall. A pair of beagles howled in unison. Each kennel had a name card. A few notes scrawled in black ink. Friendly, energetic, housebroken, not good with cats. My eyes moved over them like I was reading something I didn't really need to know. And then I saw her. The last kennel on the left. A skinny black dog with deep brown eyes that barely lifted when I approached. Her ears were ragged at the edges, her fur dull and patchy. She didn't bark, didn't wag, just sat in the corner, looking at a spot on the floor that I couldn't see. "What's her story?" I asked when the volunteer caught up with me. She glanced at the chart on the kennel door. "That's Clara. Came in about 6 weeks ago. She was found behind a gas station off Route 10. No tags, no chip. Pretty rough shape. Took us a while to get her stable. Anyone interested in her?" She hesitated, her voice gentle. "No. She doesn't really show well. Tends to just shut down when people come by. We think she might have been through a lot." I crouched down, careful not to startle the dog. Clara didn't move, didn't flinch. Her eyes flicked up to mine for a second, then back down. "What happens if no one takes her?" The volunteer looked uncomfortable. "We have space right now, but long term. We do our best to find placements, rescues, fosters." I nodded. My chest felt tight. I didn't go to the shelter to adopt a dog, but I did. The paperwork took less time than I thought. Clara didn't protest when the volunteer clipped the leash to her collar, though her legs shook a little as we walked toward the car. I opened the back door, laid out the old fleece blanket I'd kept in the trunk since last winter, and waited. She climbed in slowly, turning twice before curling into a tight ball. The drive home was quiet. I kept glancing at the rearview mirror, half expecting her to vanish, but she stayed curled and still, her eyes half closed. When we got to the house, she hesitated on the porch. I held the door open, then stepped back, giving her space. After a moment, she walked inside. Her nose twitched. She sniffed the floor, the corners, the edge of the couch. Her tail stayed down, but she didn't bolt. "You can stay as long as you want," I said softly. Clara didn't answer, of course, but she didn't leave. The first night she slept in the hallway outside my bedroom. I left the door cracked. Around midnight, I heard her shift, nails clicking lightly on the wood floor. I thought she might be looking for an escape, but instead she curled up right outside the door. By the third day, she followed me from room to room. Not close, just far enough to watch. When I sat on the porch with my coffee, she sat in the doorway, ears perked, eyes half closed but still watching me. When I watered the hydrangeas, she stood at the edge of the steps, watching the hose like it might bite. On the fifth day, she barked. Just once, sharp, clear. She'd spotted a squirrel near the fence and let out a single sound that made me spill my coffee. She looked as surprised as I was. I crouched beside her. "That your voice?" She blinked, then sat down. I started talking to her more after that, narrating what I was doing, telling her about the things I needed to fix around the house, reading the mail out loud. Clara didn't answer, but she listened. Her eyes stayed on me, her body a little looser with each passing day. A week in, I brought home a rubber ball. I rolled it gently across the floor. She watched it, looked at me, then got up and walked away. I tried again the next day. Same thing. On the 10th day, I rolled it across the living room, and Clara trotted after it. She didn't pick it up, just touched it with her nose, then looked back at me. It felt like fireworks. That evening, I sat on the floor. Clara lay on her rug, eyes half-lidded, ears flicking at every sound. I reached out, slow as molasses, and touched her side. She flinched, then relaxed. "You don't have to be scared anymore," I whispered. She closed her eyes. 3 weeks passed, then a month. Clara began to eat with more gusto, her frame filling out. Her fur looked shinier. She started to sleep on the rug by the couch. Then one night, she hopped up beside me. She didn't stay long, but it was something. Every small moment felt like a victory. A lick on the hand, a tail wag, a nudge at my arm when I stopped petting her. She wasn't the same dog I had met in the shelter. One morning, as we walked down the street together, a little boy from next door ran up, his arms flapping with excitement. "Can I pet her?" he asked. I hesitated, looking at Clara. Her body stiffened slightly, but she didn't move away. "Slowly," I said. The boy reached out gently. Clara stood still. When his fingers touched her head, her tail gave a single, soft wag. "She likes me," he beamed. I nodded, my throat tight. "Yeah, she does." Later that day, I found the old photo album in the closet. I hadn't looked through it in years, not since my wife passed. I sat on the couch and flipped through the pages. Our honeymoon in Maine, summers by the lake, Christmases with Rosie, our golden retriever at our feet. Clara came and sat beside me, her head resting on my knee. "You missed a lot," I said quietly. "But maybe that's okay. Maybe we both did." She stayed there a long time. The sun dipped low beyond the windows, casting soft light across the floor. And for the first time in a long time, the house didn't feel quite so empty. We were both learning how to come back to life together. The first thing I noticed when I woke up was the soft sound of breathing that wasn't mine. It took me a moment to remember. Clara. She was lying at the foot of my bed, her body curled like a comma, her head resting just above my ankle. I hadn't invited her there, but something about the way she had chosen to sleep close, without touching, made me feel more comforted than startled. I moved gently, not wanting to wake her. That morning was slow, quiet. I didn't rush to make breakfast, didn't turn on the radio. Clara stretched beside the bed, shook her ears, and trotted after me into the kitchen. She still didn't beg, didn't nudge, just sat with those wide brown eyes, watching as I fried a couple of eggs and toasted an English muffin. I slid a piece of boiled chicken into her bowl, a little treat I'd learned helped her eat better. She didn't gobble it down the way some dogs did. She ate methodically, with care, every bite measured. After breakfast, we went for a walk around the neighborhood. The leaves were starting to change, little flecks of gold and orange, breaking through the green. Clara walked just behind me, still tethered to the leash, but no longer resisting it. When a neighbor waved from across the street, I gave a polite nod. I didn't stop to chat. I never did. We passed a couple of other dogs barking behind fences. Clara didn't react. No growling, no whining, just observation. She was alert in a way that didn't feel tense anymore. Aware, but not afraid. One afternoon, while I was fixing a loose floorboard, Clara wandered into the room with something in her mouth. I looked up, surprised. It was the rubber ball. She dropped it near my hand. "You want to play?" I asked. She wagged her tail. We played for 10 minutes, rolling the ball back and forth. She still didn't bring it all the way back, but she nudged it with her nose every time. It felt like watching sunlight break through clouds. I started taking her farther on our walks, down to the little lake trail behind the old schoolhouse. Clara loved the smell of the water, the ducks flapping across the surface. She still didn't go into the water, but she'd sit near the edge, ears forward, eyes watching the ripples. That Saturday, we ran into an older couple who lived a few blocks away. They had a corgi named Muffin, who barked so loudly, Clara froze. I crouched beside her, whispering gently, "It's okay. Just noise. No one's going to hurt you." She stayed still, trembling slightly, but didn't try to run. Muffin sniffed her nose before the couple tugged him away. "She's shy, huh?" the woman said kindly. "Had a rough start," I replied. "Well, she's lucky to have you." I looked at Clara, who was watching me now, her body still, but more relaxed. "I'm lucky to have her." When we got home, I made stew. I chopped carrots and celery, while Clara lay nearby, occasionally sniffing the air with interest. I dropped a piece of potato, and she darted forward, catching it before it rolled too far. "Guess you like potatoes," I chuckled. She licked her lips. That night I sat on the porch again, wrapped in an old flannel. Clara lay beside my feet, her head resting on one paw. The stars were just starting to show, one by one. "You know," I said quietly, "I didn't know how much I missed talking out loud until you started listening." She thumped her tail once. That small gesture, just a flick of her tail, meant the world. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Clara whining softly. I shot up, thinking something was wrong, but she was pacing near the front door. "Want to go out?" I asked, reaching for my robe. She barked once, short and high. I opened the door, and she rushed out into the yard. A squirrel had taken refuge on the fence post, and Clara gave chase. She didn't catch it, of course, it darted off, but she trotted back with her tongue out, tail wagging. She was playing. That was the first time I saw her really play. I led her back inside and gave her a treat. She took it gently, then sat beside me on the rug. Later that day, Amanda called. I told her about Clara chasing the squirrel. "She sounds like she's really coming out of her shell," she said. "Yeah," I replied. "She's starting to act like a real dog." Amanda laughed. "Maybe she just needed the right person." Maybe we both did. That night, Clara jumped onto the couch beside me, not hesitantly, not halfway. She curled beside me, her head resting on my thigh. I froze for a moment, unsure if I should move, but then I slowly placed my hand on her back and felt her breathing steady beneath my fingers. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be.